Jason, Christy, welcome to Smart Talks with IBM. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
It's great to be here.
We are here to discuss cybersecurity and the partnership between IBM and Palo Alto Networks. But before we get there, I wanted you guys to tell me a little bit about yourself. Jason, let's start with you. I see on your resume West Point, which makes me think there's some interesting things going on there. How did you get to West Point?
West Point. West Point was a decision first. It was affordable back in the day, but I had a sense of service. My father was a World War II vet, so I grew up on the weekends watching World War II video.
Was he Army?
He's Army as well.
Yeah,
and so I thought, oh, that'd be exciting, and I thought I'd do some type of service. Went there, and now I have the biggest family, extended family I could ever have. So it was very exciting. Played football, lucked out, meaning I wasn't recruited.
Yeah.
I walked on, and that kept me there because it gave me something, an outlet with all the other pressures that are
What
there.
position did you play?
Defensive back. I was great at knocking the ball down, not the best at catching it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you were a Ranger.
I was privileged to be a U.S. Army Airborne Ranger. Stationed, but did most of my time in northern Italy. We were part of the it was 82nd Airborne
Hardship post.
Oh yeah, right. That's what people say. Seriously, like you were in northern, you were drinking wine and having bread.
Eating
But
pasta.
no, it was we were part of a NATO force there at the
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So exciting.
How did you get from there to IBM?
A long path. As I came out of the military, I started manufacturing, retail, housing, and did a quick stint, took a leave of absence from industry, and did a stint of, yet again, public service in the state of Tennessee with economic development, and got a whiff of how fun it could be to do things around data and media. Started a small media firm, what we would now call a digital firm.
Mm-hmm.
Sold it and said I wanted to go do it again somewhere, but I wanted to go to a big company. And the family at IBM brought me in and have yet to let me go.
That was how many years ago?
2 decades.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So I know I look amazingly young but
Yes, I was going to say, you must have.
And if
IBM was my 5th career.
Yeah.
And I've enjoyed it since. And that's what I do there. I build teams, grow new parts of the company, and get to work with some of the most brilliant people on the face of the planet, as well as partners like Christy that just keep it exciting.
Christy, I was delighted to learn that you are Canadian.
Yes, from
Nothing
Toronto.
made me happier. But you were a consultant for a long time at Bain?
Yes. Yeah, I joined Bain Consulting, intending to spend a couple years there, learn the ropes, and then go get my first real job. But the value personally to my growth and development, and then that we were able to bring our clients, I ended up there for 16 years. And then post Bain went on to my first product company, a New Relic. And then it's come full circle at Palo Alto Networks. But at Bain, it was all about bringing expertise across different industries to help our clients improve whatever they needed to improve and bringing that expertise to bear. And then you have the product lens and you think, okay, we're going to build the absolute best product to help our customers do what they need to get done. And then I joined Palo Alto about 6-7 months ago in a partnerships role. And I'm delighted to be able to work with amazing consulting companies like IBM, where we bring both to bear.
How long have IBM and Palo Alto Networks been partners? Is it a long standing?
We've been working together
Years.
for quite a long time, but we made it official, meaning we got married as strategic partners last year.
Oh, I see. So what is it that each of you bring to the table? What's each side special?
So it's great that you asked that, because about a decade ago, our now CEO, Arvind Krishna, says, wouldn't it be great if we just had, this one focus with what does IBM do? And you could have this whole list. And he says, let's make it simple. We are a multi-cloud, hybrid cloud AI company. And so when you say that, it sounds very simple, but then people, what the hell does that, what your hybrid cloud, well, both of those two things have a lot of data involved, and a lot of those mean that that data is going to sit in multiple places in distributed environments. Well, if you're able to tie those things together with multiple partners, you also have to make sure that it's secure. Because in the direction that we're going, where data is now being consumed in many different places, and it is the fuel behind AI, as we know, then you say, Well, who does that well? And who does it in a way that's getting rid of seams, the seams that could be across multiple products, multiple product sets even. And that's where Palo comes in.
I think the conventional wisdom in cybersecurity was always you need all the new tools, right? You need every threat. It's like whack-a-mole. Every threat that pops up, you get the tool that's purpose built for that specific thing. Well, fast forward to the RSA conference this year, there were 4,000 vendors on the floor. You look at an average company, there's hundreds of cybersecurity tools. It introduces a level of complexity that is really hard to manage. You, as a user, query an application, right? That query can go through a bunch of different it pings from one cloud to the next. It goes into and out of a SaaS application. It may be running along a network. You may be accessing it from your phone, which is an unmanaged device. It's got to go in and out. And if you say, okay, I've got to secure that phone, I've got to secure the network, I've got it, then all of a sudden you've got sort of firewalls, software and hardware firewalls popping up everywhere. You've got cloud security. And you've probably heard of this concept of zero trust, which is every time you have to check and say, are you allowed in here? Are you allowed in here? The number of places that can fall down, it just becomes overwhelming. So you end up with either alerts firing, every 2 seconds that you have to then go investigate, and most of which are false positives, or you miss something, right? And so that was the conventional wisdom, was we've got to buy all these tools. And now you've got overwhelmed CIOs and CISOs with hundreds of tools. And Palo Alto's strategy has been, look, we're going to create a platform where everything can be stitched together, everything can speak the same language, and we can sort of manage throughout the architecture and watch this call as it's passing through all these different checkpoints, and we can do it in a way that you still have the confidence that it's best of breed, right? So you're not making any trade-offs. But it's not so simple just to get from the spaghetti to the seamless architecture. You need oftentimes to re-engineer your business processes. You have to re-architect your digital environment. And so that's where we partner with a company like IBM to bring that expertise and say, we're going to help you not just deploy the best cybersecurity architecture, but really get your environment ready to have this zero trust.
As
zero
well as
trust
all of
security.
those players that cross that spaghetti. Because when you start thinking about all the other partners that you work with, if you think of an industry perspective, you're going to have an ERP. It could be an Oracle, it could be an SAP. You're not going to have one cloud. As I mentioned, it's going to be possibly multiple clouds. You'll have some AWS, maybe Microsoft Azure, and then even some Google in there. And then your own that you've built and you're private over there.
Some IBM.
Some in IBM Cloud.
Mhm.
You'll have those multiple clouds, and then you also will have fit for purpose. So, well, I need a Salesforce in there for my customer focusing. I'm doing some graphics, so I have Adobe. So I can name all of those, then have to be re-engineered. Seriously, I mean, come
Mhm.
on, Malcolm, are you going to sit there? You think how long that would take?
Mhm.
So if you haven't done that before, you're going to have to go to each one of those individually, or you can work with a company that can tie those things together because we are also strategic partners with them.
Yeah.
So that's where you start to say, okay, I see how this comes together. You have to make sure that your ecosystem is going to be stronger than your competitor's ecosystem. And you have to be secure in what you're doing, because as you add more players or products, you create seams, and you want to make sure there's fewer seams and that there's zero trust across that capability you're building. And that's why the complement between the two companies.
Take a step back for a moment before we sort of launch once again into the specifics of what you guys are doing. I'm curious at this moment in 2024, how nervous should we be about cybersecurity? So compare it to 5 years ago or 10 years ago. Are you less nervous than you were 5 years ago, or more nervous? Are all the changes going on right now increasing vulnerability or decreasing it?
I would say, and Chrissy, also, I think we share the point of view is that it's not necessarily being more nervous. I think you should be more prepared,
Yeah.
because the amounts of threat is increasing based on our dependence upon data. And that's where I think the attention should be placed, is that more and more, especially with the importance of AI, that you say, okay, then what's under all that? And it's the data, as
Mhm.
I said. So knowing that, you should be more concerned.
Does the advent of AI and its rapid evolution help defense more or offense more?
I think it's like any mega trend that we've witnessed, both, right? So you think about AI, it's 99% great, right? In terms of what it's going to unlock for productivity, for humanity, but it also makes it a whole lot easier to build ransomware. It's a whole lot easier to test different ways into a system, right? But I think that's true if you think about like the rise of the internet, right? All of a sudden, everyone was putting their data online, and you had to think of new ways to stay ahead and keep that secure. And I don't think AI is any different. You've got companies like Palo Alto, partnerships like Palo and IBM that are constantly scanning the landscape for not only the current threats, but what's next, what's coming around the
Mhm.
corner, what's after AI. And so I think taking it seriously and being prepared is probably the right way of looking at it, as opposed to, because if you think about it too hard, you'll just want to crawl into a corner and stuff everything under the mattress.
Let me give you a hypothetical. I
Mhm.
am the CEO of a regional hospital chain,
Mhm.
big distributed
Great.
healthcare system,
Mhm.
whatever. So, ton of data. The consequences of being hacked and held for ransom are
Life and death.
life and death,
Yeah,
right?
literally.
When you come, so you come down, you sit down with me, and you chat with me. Um, Walk me through the kinds of things you would tell me about what I need to get safer. For example, let's start with one.
Mhm.
Is it likely that I'm spending too little, or am I spending money in the wrong place?
It's a great question. It depends how you've broken it out. If you are distributing all of your dollars across a whole bunch of different tools, it's likely you're just spending the wrong money. And in
Yeah.
fact, putting it all in one place is a way of potentially saving money, but keeping your security actually higher. And I'd love to hear, Jason, how you would approach it. How we would approach it, of course, is by saying, what does your environment look like? Do you have the connected medical devices into your EMR? Are your respirators and ventilators all online? Right. And so we would talk about, okay, here's how you get coverage and how the coverage of both the firewalls as well as the detectors all feed back into your security operations center, and you can manage it and do your alerting with AI and keep yourself secure and
Mm.
safe.
Yeah, and I would say Christy and I would go to the same point, because if you get under what she was just asking, is your data on-prem?
Mhm.
And when it's on-prem, how active is it across the enterprise? And so that begins the basis for the start. And then often you're going to say, well, we actually take in data from outside. And then we also have the circumstance, there's a lot of PII. And so that personal
PII,
is the personal information that,
personal information.
right?
Yeah.
And so now you're saying, okay, now how are we securing that? And where are we securing it? And so you have to start really thinking about the different areas within that hospital chain. Are you sharing that amongst your hospitals?
Mhm.
And now you start to think of, if I'm saying no to a lot of that, it's like, well, then are you as efficient as you want to be? So there is that trade-off of, am I so tightly walled that I'm not productive? And so that's where we would start to say, what's the outcome that you're trying to get to? Maybe you're good. Maybe you're good with your 5 locations and you don't need to go any further, but maybe you want to expand to
Mhm.
50. And by the way, you're going to go cross border. You're going to be in Toronto and in New York. Okay. Well, then how do you do that? And so I think that it's very easy to start jumping into any of this typical situations. But the first question that you have to ask, you as the hospital CEO, is, what's your objective?
Mhm.
What are you trying to do? Because too often what we see is that there's some bright new shiny thing that everybody wants to put in play. It's a sandwich looking for lunch. And you go, oh, but what is it that you want to do as this hospital? Are you doing research? Are you a research hospital? Are you more consumer oriented? So those are the questions you start to ask, because they start to then tell a story in line with what Christy questions. And I think that that's where the compliment is, that instead of just saying, oh, well, thanks for telling me all this, Malcolm, here's your 10-page strategy. Now go find somebody. We have the benefit in IBM, and it's probably why I'm still there, is, we're very unique. We're the only company on the planet that has a consulting business at scale inside of a technology company.
Mhm.
And so we have, the left brain, right brain, and we're able to do that. And then we're able to say, okay, now which partners are going to be most valuable for our clients? What's going to work for you isn't going to work for the manufacturer down the road, isn't going to work for the consumer or CPG company across the river.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Those things are very specific. The threats and the scenes that I was talking about are very specific. So that's where it becomes very valuable to make sure that I'm not just giving you some strategy that's
Mm-hmm.
generic.
But everything, as a healthcare CEO, everything I have done, almost everything I've done over the last 10 years, hasn't it had the effect of increasing my vulnerability? I want to digitize data within the hospital. It used to be on pieces of paper. I want doctors to go home and to be able to seamlessly hook into stuff at work because they got to do all their paperwork. I want to make sure the diabetes people are speaking to the organ transplant people. And so isn't that everything I have done to kind of keep up with the revolution in healthcare? Isn't that also making me more and more vulnerable to a bad actor?
It's such a great question because think about the quality of healthcare delivery, right? So now doctors aren't filling out forms, they're spending time with patients. And so the quality of care is improving and the vulnerability is improving, right? And so I think that's where having a strong cybersecurity strategy actually enables all of that. One of our products is our SASE product, and we tested it with some business applications. And oftentimes the wrap is, oh, security is going to slow you down, right? Like you have to add a firewall, you have to add checkpoints. Our product actually increases the velocity of your ability to use that application because of the way that it is queried through our system as opposed to just through the regular network. So it doesn't slow it down. And in fact, it makes it run more efficiently.
Yeah.
That's just one minor example, but back to the healthcare question, I, as a patient, want my doctors accessing all the technology and talking to each other and connecting the dots behind the scenes. I also want my data to stay private. And so having both a consulting partner who understands how to ask questions of the environment and of the applications you're using and who understands the industry inside and out, and a technology partner that builds and stays ahead of all of the different threats come together and advise you, I think is super important. When you bring in a partner like IBM with a platform like Palo Alto that covers, all the different parts of your environment, you're able to say, look, where are the vulnerabilities in the system? Where are the different endpoints that we need to have covered? And then just make sure you get that breadth of coverage.
Mhm.
And then you're better able to. So yes, you've increased the risk, but then you've mitigated it.
Mhm. So I'll before I retire my healthcare analogy, because I was thinking about just trying to understand the importance of this idea of having a single platform. So if my little healthcare network is typical, I've acquired a whole series of over the last 10 years. I bought a hospital over here. I got some physicians things that I snapped up over here. I bought a diagnostics company. And so I have all of these legacy systems. And I have, like you said, maybe I got some stuff in the cloud with one company, some stuff with the cloud. And what you're saying is the first step is to kind of rationalize that, put it on a single platform so you understand where your points of weakness are, as opposed to being blind to your points of weakness.
There's yes, although anyone who's done any kind of M&A knows that that's a long journey, right? So I think the first step is just understanding where everything is.
Yeah.
And then you get on a path and you say, where's the biggest risk? Let's neutralize or mitigate that risk one at a time. The thing about open and secure, Palo Alto, we keep touting the benefits of the platform. Everything on Palo Alto, your risk is going to be mitigated and you're going to have the full visibility, but you can't get there overnight. And so we've got, thousands of integrations with other technology companies, including our partners, to make sure that we can capture and have visibility into those endpoints and those systems as well. And so I think step one is just figure out where everything is, just get the scan. So Palo Alto has a couple of products where you can kind of deploy and get a view of your attack surface. I love the analogy, just like a digital environment as a house, right? And so like you have your front door log, of course, because probably they're going to try the front door first. But that's not all you're going to do, right?
Yeah.
You're going to make sure the whole, the windows are locked and there's an alarm system and all of that. And I think that's how you have to think about it is just how do we cover the whole surface?
So everyone, lay people like me, have been bombarded it seems like over the last year with one thing or another about how quickly AI is moving forward and how big of a deal it is suddenly is going to be in the economy. What is the impact of that dramatic change in AI's capabilities on this cybersecurity question. So, what does it mean if you're defending somebody that you now have these sophisticated AI tools at your disposal?
Uh, I think that AI becomes the force multiplier for cyber. To think about cyber before, it was just locking your doors,
Mhm.
locking the windows.
Mhm.
And if you were really good, you had an alarm system. You know, now with AI, you can say, well, I can predict what's going to happen. I can see around the corner. I know I can leave my windows open upstairs and it's fine and it's okay.
I mean, because the AI, why? Because the AI is running a million simulations.
It can, and that's
Yeah.
exactly it. It becomes the intelligent part of that AI. It's not artificial, it's augmented. So you now have this new capability to see around corners. And so you're able to do the jobs of yesterday more effectively.
Mhm.
And the queries that you were doing, and that's all you're really doing. Now you're doing them, faster. You're able to access even more data, and you're able to then make it more secure. So that's why AI becomes a force multiplier.
Yeah. And let's talk about the faster part. What does faster mean in practical terms if you're trying to defend an enterprise against a cyber attack? Why does speed matter in that environment?
You're always trying to find a place through. I go back to you. We brought up the army. You always, how do you break the line? How do you find a
Mhm.
penetration point? And when you think about, you know, pin testing, penetration testing, where are those? So if you're able to do that faster than the bad guys, and not only faster, but you're picking more probable points. This is back to the intelligence. I could waste time doing penetration testing someplace where that's why I mentioned leave. If they can't get in the second story windows, why are you spending time
Yeah.
trying to? So that becomes more effective. So that's when I think of speed. That's what I think of because with not just speed, I think it's also what's effective.
Just to put a fine point on it. So I found a way in.
Mhm.
Okay, now what? I don't know where the jewelry is, so I have to look around and see if there's any hidden gems and try to find my way. That used to take a week, 2 weeks, or 7 to 14 days. Now it's hours, right? So they're in and they can actually exfiltrate data within less than a day. The metric we use in the security operations center is mean time to detect. So to see anyone's there, mean time to respond and remediate to get them out, right? That used to be also, 7, 8, 9, 10 days. Now it needs to be less than an hour. And with our AI based security operations platform, it is. Now you've got one tool that's whether it's all Palo Alto Networks or whether it's just hoovering in data from other places, then you're able to see it all together. So you actually get fewer alerts. So you get from thousands of alerts down to 100 alerts, right? And you can investigate them, and you investigate them using AI too. And AI is today, it's today's threat, but it's you think about threat and opportunity. You think about what's next. You always have to be kind of evolving.
And you have to think we talk about threat and risk, and we didn't talk. What is the cost of
Mhm.
cyber? Some type of penetration. It's typical cost is about
Mhm.
$4.5 million, and that's just in labor and remediation. If you think about reputational risk as well, our Institute for Business Value did a study and found that
Mhm.
in 2023, there were 39 banks that we watched that suffered a reputational risk market value of $130 billion.
Mhm.
And so you start to think, wow, that's just reputational risk.
Mhm.
So that's what's at stake here. It's only that is only going to get bigger.
Yeah.
So one of the pieces we haven't talked about AI that I find super interesting because we've been talking essentially about like the Terminator, the robots fighting robots, right? Like whose robots are quicker. Like I'm designing attacks and I'm defending against attacks, and I think that's super important. But we recently launched and are working with IBM on our AI security product to actually secure the use of AI because it also opens up another set of threat vectors. I'll give you an example. I'm a marketing executive now for your hospital, so I
Mhm.
work for you, and you want to announce the launch of a new center. And so I upload all the information about all the patients and our, how we do things into ChatGPT to write the PR for me. Well, I've also just uploaded to ChatGPT a whole bunch of secrets, right? So it's how employees are using AI because I think some companies are sort of building their own language models and their own AI applications that they want to keep secure. Others are just curious about how their employees are using AI applications on the shelf. And so we announced in May a product where you can actually scan and see how AI is being used in your enterprise. And we made the announcement. The GA was last month, but we made the announcement in May, and we had immediately thousands of CIOs signing up because just understanding, who's using what, it's another open question because we talk about AI enhancing productivity and all the benefits it's going to bring, but it brings risks not just in how it's being used by the threat actors, but also, what other vulnerabilities it exposes.
Is the eye
others.
does that system tell you what's a problematic use?
It does. So what it does, and you've got to train it, right? But what it does is say this is outside of your policy. So CIOs will set policies on here's what is acceptable and not acceptable use. So we'll be able to scan and say these following uses are outside of policy. And then it'll opine and say, I think this is too restrictive. I think this is too permissive. And then you can sort of update your policies from there. That's just sort of the visibility piece. And then there's the runtime piece, which will actually stop you from using it. So you go and say, okay, here's all my patients' social security numbers. I'm going to upload them to ChatGPT to, get an understanding of like where they all live. I don't know why you would possibly do that, but let's say you were. And then, it'll note that looks like a social security number. You can't upload that into your prompt. And so
Well, it
it'll
will
actually
stop you
from doing
before
that.
you,
Exactly.
thoughtful
Yeah.
Thoughtful.
voice over your shoulder, just to remind you not to do something silly. Yeah.
Exactly.
But just talk a little bit more about adding AI into this mix.
Mhm.
You say it's a force multiplier. It's a really interesting. Let's dig into that. What other instances of what that means? How does the balance between AI and human expertise work in the kind of next generation of cybersecurity?
I think the common way to look at it is back to the force multiplier. It's not going to be is your AI better, but can you use it better? Can you ask your AI the right questions? Are you well trained? So the competition really becomes your use of AI, and are you pointing it in the right direction? You have 50 people. Can they do the work of 250? And can they do it in a safe and secure manner? So you're not opening up more risk based on or too much risk into your risk tolerance in order to get the outcome. So that's where I think there's the opportunity. And so you see this truly as a force multiplier, because the first thing people go, oh, you're going to get rid of people. Oh, the people portion is still going to be just as important because they're doing that other piece of work.
One of my favorite statistics is that there are now more bank tellers in the US than there were in 1960 before the ATM was invented, right? So, but it used to be you would go to your bank because you had to, I remember doing this. You go, you fill out your deposit slip, you hand it to the teller, and they give you your cash. And then ATMs were invented, and it was like, oh no, what's going to happen to all these jobs? And now there's more, right? But you're not withdrawing money from a bank teller. You're now doing more sophisticated transactions.
Yeah.
And so I think it's similar with AI, right? Like you want people doing things that only people can do.
The human element remains absolutely central in all of this. How do you make sure that your cybersecurity folks are equipped to handle high value tasks, are sort of ready for this increase in responsibility?
There's a couple ways to answer this, but I think the more you're able to automate the routine and the mundane tasks. For example, the bulk of cybersecurity happens in the security operations center. There's analysts who are sitting in that center. If they're spending all day either configuring alerts or responding to alerts, they're not able to do the advanced sort of threat hunting and analysis work. And so I think a big chunk of it is just freeing up their time to be able to do the more advanced strategic work. And a lot of the automation tools based on AI, like our Cortex XIM product, it's designed to free up their time in order to be able to do that.
And from our perspective, it's making sure that it's a requirement to make sure that you have the qualifications, because people can easily get used to doing what they've always done. I know this, and that's what I do. You say, well, no, all the threat actors are learning on the fly. They're trying to always outsmart you. So it's in your best interest, our best interest, our client's best interest, and partners' best interest that you are on the front leading edge of that learning capability.
If you're talking to a client who wants to develop a kind of unified cybersecurity strategy, what's the best single piece of advice you can give them?
you should have a single platform. It's hard not to answer that, but it is true. I mean, all joking aside, having the best of breed solutions that are all talking to each other and able to stitch together and identify threats before a human might be able to. That's number one. And number two is making sure you have visibility on all elements. So you're able to cover your whole environment and understand how people are accessing it.
I'd say think like a bad actor.
Yeah.
Always think outside in, because you get comfortable the other way around.
You guys work together with a Fortune 500 company, and I'd love for you to talk a little bit about, to use that as a kind of case study for what this collaboration between your two companies looks like when you work with a client.
It really was, IBM leading on a digital transformation for this client that wanted to move their applications into the cloud. And so you're asking a lot of questions about how does AI increase the risk in the surface area. Those same questions 10 years ago were asked about the cloud. And we're still on the journey where companies are migrating to the cloud. We're not anywhere near finished that yet. And so there's two pieces to a cloud migration. One is just refactoring for the cloud to make sure the application works effectively in the cloud. And the second is security. And then you built in security by design using Palo Alto's Prisma Cloud products to make sure that not only did you have the visibility, so our cloud product, you can scan and see where the vulnerabilities are. And then there's also, cloud firewalls, essentially, that will keep bad actors out and keep the cloud instance secure.
If we sit down and have this conversation 5 years from now, which I actually hope we do, be fun. So let's pretend it's 2029. Tell me, what are you happy about in 2029?
I think 2029 quantum computing is mainstream. I think quantum computing is now quantum safe, where we're using quantum computing to make sure that those bad actors aren't as bad as they used to be back in 2024, and that we're seeing around the corners, and that we're empowering our Palo Alto relationship that in 2029 is the premier type of capability that people are looking at when they think of what used to be AI and now is quantum capability.
Yeah.
I think for AI, everyone's just using it as part of their job. The way email was an innovation in the 90s, the way, cloud was an innovation in the 2010s. And we thought, how are we going to use this? What impact is it going to have on productivity? All these people who are spending their days typing up memos, like, what are they going to do? We're going to be past that fear, and we're all going to understand that it is this like truly positive force multiplier for, every employee is able to do their best work and spend their time on the things that only they can do. And then the AI is doing the rest of that for them, right?
AI is going to enable many things to work together, and it won't be just one language model. We won't even think about it. It will be the difference between, Malcolm having a fax machine, a stereo, and a telephone, and a memo board. Now it's in your pocket, and it's all one thing. And you don't even call that. I said Walkman to my kids the other day, and they're like, "What's a Walkman?" So I do think it'll be part of the past, and it will be this thought of the seamless connection that is secure, seamless connection of HR, of finance, of distribution, logistics, of billing. All of those will have a capability to work together.
Yeah. I have to do some social quickfire questions.
Okay.
You guys ready?
All right.
What's the number one thing that people misunderstand about AI?
The reliance on data.
What do you mean by that?
I think that it's just assumed that it's happening and it can just go out and grab data anywhere.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Oh, I see. Yeah.
You have to have good data, reliable data, and access to the data.
I think people are too afraid of it.
Chatbots and image generators are the biggest things in consumer AI right now. What do you think is the next big business application, Jason?
I think it's the tying together of multiple capabilities. I hinted towards this earlier, is that I think tying together the disparate systems that sit in different parts of the organization, front office, back office, making it one office, and tying together those different functions. That's it.
For me, it's workflow automation. I think back to your point on the reliance on data. Seems easy. It's a lot harder than you think, because you have to have everything set up in exactly the right way to get all of your systems automated and the sort of the more boring jobs taken care of so that humans could do the strategic ones.
How are you already using AI in your day-to-day life?
I mean, I use it at work all the time. And then I've found right now I go to ChatGPT instead of Google to look things up. I like having a conversation.
We have a wonderful capability in our consulting business called our consulting assistant. And consulting advantage is the proper name for it, but I look at it as that assistant. It's a force multiplier for me. So if I need to pull together content proposals with the teams, we go straight to that.
We got one more. We hear so many definitions of open related to technology. How do you define it, and how does the concept help you innovate?
By definition, in cybersecurity, you don't want to be too open, right? So I think we enable openness with this concept of zero trust and saying like everyone's invited in as long as you have the right credentials, right? So that's one way, and then the other way is just making sure you're connected to all the different systems in order to be able to have that visibility and see what's happening. Because if you are blind, that's the minute you have that vulnerability.
Yeah.
And I'd say it's moving quickly with security. It sounds contradictory. Open. Oh, then it means you're not safe. No,
Mhm.
you are safe and you can move faster.
Yeah. Thank you so much. This is fun.
Thanks a lot.
Thank
This
you.
was great. We'll see
Yeah.
you in 5 years.
Yeah, 5
See you
years.
in 5 years. Yeah, that's right. Man, I'll be old in 5 years.